Welcome. You've just stepped into a place where the last day of school isn't quite what you remember. The halls are empty, the classroom's silent, but not alone. Tonight, we're diving into 3 true horror stories that happened when the final bell rang. The kind of moments that turn ordinary endings into nightmares. These are stories about the last day of school, the pranks that went too far, the disappearances no one could explain, the classmates who were never quite the same afterward. Each one lingers in the hallways long after you leave, and each one is a quiet trap of fear you might not see coming. This isn't just another collection of teen scares. These are real encounters told by those who lived them. You may think you're safe, but after tonight, the memory of the final bell might follow you home and into your dreams. Most people watch videos like this and forget to subscribe. But if you stay with us tonight, you might not want to miss what comes next. So tell me, what time is it where you are? And where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. I want to know who's with me in the quiet corners tonight. Lights dim, doors close, and now, here are tonight's encounters. The second I heard the shower handle turn on by itself, I knew someone else was in the locker room. The water hissed in one of the back stalls, steady and sharp against the tiles. I froze halfway through tying my shoe. Every sound echoing too loud in that empty room. My breath, the squeak of my sneaker sole. The slow drip from a busted pipe somewhere behind me. It was supposed to be just me. The others had already left after graduation rehearsal. The last day of school, everyone screaming and taking selfies out on the football field. I'd stayed behind because I forgot my gym bag. And because, if I'm honest, I didn't want to walk home yet. Something about that last day didn't feel real. Everything felt too quiet, too final. But the second I heard that shower running, I felt it, like the air thickened around me. I stood up slowly, scanning the long line of metal lockers. Most of them were already empty, doors hanging open like rusted mouths. The fluorescent lights above flickered every few seconds, and each flicker seemed to make the shadows crawl closer along the tile floor. "Hello?" I called out. My voice sounded small, swallowed by the hollow echo of the room. No answer. The shower kept running. At first, I thought maybe one of the janitors was cleaning up. But there wasn't the usual sound of a mop or bucket wheels, just that constant hissing stream of water. I took a few slow steps toward the showers. My sneakers squeaked on the wet floor. The smell of chlorine and damp towels hit my nose, strong enough to make me swallow hard. The locker room had always been a little creepy after hours. The windows were covered in wire mesh, and the door to the gym made this long metallic groan every time it opened. It was a place that was loud and alive during the day but felt dead at night. When I reached the corner, I called out again, "Coach, you in here?" Still nothing. The shower curtain nearest to me moved, just a little, like a draft passed through. I swallowed, stepped closer, and reached out. My fingers brushed the cold, wet fabric. I pulled it aside in one quick motion, empty, just water streaming from the shower head into a puddle circling the drain. I turned it off. The sound died instantly, leaving this ringing silence that felt worse. I could hear my heartbeat fast and shallow. That's when I noticed it. The mirror across the aisle fogged up from the steam. There was a handprint on it, not like someone had just touched it. This was darker, like the moisture had formed around the shape, leaving a perfect, dry outline of a palm and fingers. I stared at it for a second too long before my brain caught up with fear. I grabbed my gym bag, slung it over my shoulder, and started walking fast toward the exit. My shoes squeaked louder now, almost desperate sounding. The locker door beside me slammed shut. I froze. The sound hit so hard it echoed through my chest. I turned slowly and saw one of the blue metal doors vibrating slightly from the impact. "Okay," I whispered half to myself. "Nope, I'm done." I reached for the exit handle. It didn't budge. I twisted harder, jamming my shoulder against it. Locked. That didn't make sense. The door never locked from the inside. I looked back at the rows of lockers, the fog still curling lazily through the air from the shower I'd turned off. That's when I saw it. Someone standing between the rows. They were just barely visible in the flickering light. A figure, motionless, facing my direction. I couldn't make out their face, but I could tell by the height and build it wasn't one of the janitors. "Hey," I managed, my voice cracking. "This isn't funny." The figure didn't move, the light buzzed and went out for half a second. When it came back on, they were gone. I stumbled backward, breathing hard. My hand was still on the locked door. I didn't want to look away, but my instinct screamed to get out, to find another way. There was a side exit through the coach's office, small glass window door that led into the hallway. I'd have to pass through the back of the locker room to reach it, right past where the figure had been standing. I told myself it was just nerves, that maybe it was a shadow or my reflection. I'd had maybe 3 hours of sleep the night before, and my head was spinning from everything ending at once. But the air felt wrong now. Every breath I took was thick with humidity and something else. Something like old sweat and wet metal. I walked fast, keeping my head down. The lockers were all slightly open, edges glinting in the fluorescent light. I tried not to imagine faces peering from the cracks. When I reached the far end, I pushed open the coach's office door. It was dark inside. The blinds were half closed, cutting stripes of gray light across the floor. Papers were scattered on the desk, and a half-empty mug of coffee sat beside a whistle. The exit door was only a few feet away. I felt a rush of relief and moved toward it, then stopped. There were wet footprints on the floor, bare feet. They started at the shower room and led directly into the office, right toward the door I was about to open. I followed, the prints with my eyes, my heart pounding. The last one stopped just inches from the desk. There was something lying there, a folded piece of paper, soaked through and wrinkled. I picked it up. The ink had bled, but I could still make out words written in messy, jagged lines. "Don't leave me alone again." I dropped it. My whole body went cold. That's when I heard it. A locker slamming, then another and another. Metal crashing in a chain reaction all across the room. It sounded like someone was running their hands along the lockers, slamming them one by one. I pressed my back against the desk, breathing hard. The noise stopped. Then the voice came, soft, close, right behind me. "Do you remember me?" I turned so fast I nearly slipped on the wet floor, but there was no one there. Just the faint smell of something sweet and rotten, like old flowers. My brain scrambled through memories, but nothing made sense. The voice had sounded young, my age, familiar even. I grabbed the exit handle and shoved. It opened this time, swinging into the hallway. The fluorescent lights outside flickered too, buzzing faintly. I stepped out, soaked with sweat, clutching my gym bag. I was shaking so hard I could barely walk straight. I didn't stop moving until I was halfway down the hall. That's when I heard the door creak open behind me. Slow, hinges whining. I turned around just in time to see something slip back into the locker room, not running, just gliding backward into the dark. The door closed on its own. I wanted to convince myself it was my imagination. Maybe I was exhausted. Maybe the pipes had made noise and shadows had played tricks on me. But as I stood there, breathing in the still, empty hallway, I saw something that made my skin crawl all over again. A piece of white paper was stuck under the doorframe. Another note. I stepped closer and crouched down. It said, "Last day, right? Don't forget to say goodbye this time." I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that mirror, the handprint, the fog, the shadow in the corner. And that note, that stupid wet piece of paper sitting in my backpack right now. I'd tried throwing it away when I got home, but when I went to take out the trash before bed, it was sitting on my kitchen counter again, the edges even wetter, like someone had just pulled it out of water. The handwriting looked worse now, like it had been smeared by fingers. "Don't forget to say goodbye this time." The words kept echoing in my head until I turned off every light and sat by my window, watching the street outside. It was quiet, too quiet. You know that silence that feels heavy, where even the hum of the fridge sounds like it's holding its breath? That kind. I kept checking my phone, scrolling mindlessly through messages. No one was talking about anything strange. Everyone was still posting photos from graduation, crying, laughing emojis, "We made it" captions. And here I was, shaking in the dark, convinced something followed me home from school. At around 2 a.m., I heard the shower running. At first I thought it was coming from my upstairs neighbor, but then I realized I live on the top floor. I froze, listening. The sound wasn't muffled through the ceiling. It was in my apartment. The pipes vibrated in the wall beside my bed. I forced myself up, heart slamming. My bathroom door was closed, a thin strip of light glowing beneath it. I hadn't left the light on. For a long moment, I just stared at it. The sound of running water steady behind the door. The steam must have been building up because the light flickered through it, hazy and soft. I grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, a flashlight from my desk drawer. My hands were trembling so bad I dropped it twice before I got a grip. I crept toward the door. Each step felt heavier, like I was walking underwater. My throat was dry, every breath hot and shallow. When I reached the bathroom, I pressed my ear to the door. Water, dripping, movement. Then, a voice, humming, a girl's voice, low. Almost tuneless. I'd never heard it before, but it felt familiar. I don't know what made me do it, but I whispered, "Hello?" The humming stopped. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. Nothing. Then I heard 3 soft knocks from the inside of the bathroom door. I stumbled back, my chest tightening. The sound came again, slower this time, like whoever was inside was dragging their knuckles down the wood. I couldn't move. I just stood there, flashlight shaking in my hand until the light under the door went out. The sound of running water stopped. It was dead quiet again. I forced myself to turn the handle. The door opened easily, hinges creaking. The bathroom was empty. No steam, no condensation on the mirror, no puddles on the floor. Completely dry. Except for one thing. On the mirror, written in fog that shouldn't have existed, were 3 words. "You forgot me." I backed out so fast I nearly tripped over the hallway rug. The air in my apartment felt colder now, and heavier, like the pressure before a storm. I turned every light on, checked every corner, every closet, nothing. But that didn't calm me, because I could feel something in a presence, like the air was being shared by someone invisible. I didn't sleep. Not even for a minute. By morning, I'd convinced myself to go back to school. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but the logic in my head at that point was, if something followed me, maybe it was tied to that place. Maybe if I went back, I could end it, or at least understand it. When I got there, the campus was empty. The janitors were cleaning up, folding chairs stacked in the hallway, old decorations half torn down. I walked straight to the gym. The door was unlocked. The smell hit me first. Wet metal, old sweat, and something faintly sour. Just like before, the lights were still buzzing, still flickering. It looked exactly how I'd left it, except for one detail. The mirrors were clean. No handprint. But on the floor, right where I'd found the note before, was another one. Folded perfectly in half, dry this time. I knelt and picked it up. "You said you'd wait." The handwriting was shakier now, as if the letters had been scratched by someone with trembling hands. I sat there staring at it, my stomach in knots. And then, like someone slowly turning a dimmer switch in my brain, I started remembering. Senior year. Gym class. A girl named Ellie. She'd been quiet. Always stayed in the back. Never joined in during games. One day after practice, I'd left early, but she'd stayed behind to shower. The next morning, we found out she never made it home. Everyone said she must have run away. Her locker stayed taped shut after that. The school didn't talk about it much. I hadn't thought about her in years, but I remembered something now, something small, stupid. The last day she was there, she had asked me if I could wait a few minutes for her to grab her stuff so we could walk out together. I said I couldn't. I had to meet my friends. I didn't wait. I sat on the locker room bench shaking, realizing how wrong it all felt. Then I saw movement in the mirror again. At first, I thought it was just me. But then the reflection smiled, and I wasn't smiling. I jumped up, stumbling back. My reflection just stood there, calm, still wet hair dripping onto the tile. Then the lights flickered, and her expression twisted, lips curling into this awful, stretched grin that didn't belong to any human face. I bolted. I ran straight for the exit, my shoes slapping the wet floor. The door was open this time, daylight pouring through. I didn't look back. I made it outside and didn't stop until I hit the parking lot. When I turned around, the gym windows were dark, like no lights were on inside at all. But I could still see her, just faintly. A shape standing in the window watching me. Her head tilted slightly like she was curious, and even though I couldn't hear her voice, I knew what she was saying. Because the air around me shifted, carrying that same whisper from before. So faint I felt it more than heard it. "You forgot to say goodbye." I thought going back there would help. That if I faced whatever that was, hers, it would stop, but it followed me home. That night, I didn't bother turning the lights off. I sat on the couch, TV muted, just watching the clock crawl past midnight. Every few minutes, I'd check the bathroom door to make sure it was still open. I couldn't stand the sound of running water anymore. Around 1:30 a.m., my phone buzzed. No name, just an unsaved number. The message read, I waited again. I stared at it, my stomach twisting. I wanted to believe it was a prank, that maybe someone had hacked my socials and found the name Ellie from old posts. But I hadn't said it out loud, not to anyone. The phone buzzed again. It's so cold here. The next one came before I could even react. You left me. My throat closed up. I dropped the phone on the couch and stood, backing away like the thing itself could crawl out of the screen. Then I heard the shower turn on. That same hiss of water, steady and sharp, cutting through the quiet. I didn't move. I couldn't. The air in my apartment got thick again, humid, sticky, just like the locker room. I turned toward the bathroom. The light was on again, flickering under the door. I whispered, Ellie? Before I even realized I'd said it, the humming started. That same flat, tuneless hum I'd heard the night before, only this time it sounded closer. Like she was standing right behind the door. I gripped the edge of the couch. My hands were shaking. Then, 3 knocks. Slow, deliberate, knuckles against wood. I swallowed hard and stepped closer. The closer I got, the colder the air felt, like the temperature dropped 10 degrees in seconds. I turned the handle and pushed the door open. The light flickered once and went out. Darkness. The sound of the water stopped. I switched on my phone's flashlight. The beam cutting across the bathroom, no one there. No water on the floor. But the mirror was fogged again. My reflection wasn't alone this time. She was standing behind me, wet hair clinging to her face, eyes pale and wide, mouth slightly open like she'd been holding her breath for too long. I spun around. Nothing. When I looked back at the mirror, she was closer. I stumbled backward, out of the bathroom, slamming the door shut. I didn't care. I didn't think. I just ran. I grabbed my keys and left the apartment barefoot. Outside, the night air hit me like ice. The street was empty, no cars, no movement. Just that deep, heavy quiet that makes you feel like you're the last person on earth. I drove. I didn't even know where. Just away. My brain kept looping the same thought. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. But after 20 minutes of aimless driving, I realized where I was heading. The school. It didn't make sense. I should have gone anywhere else, in a hotel, a friend's house, even a parking lot. But something in me needed to end it where it started. When I pulled up, the building was dark. The main gate was chained, but the side door near the gym was open just like before. Inside, the air smelled the same. Metal, sweat, and something faintly floral. The kind of smell that sticks to you after too many days around wet towels and body spray. I stepped into the locker room. The lights were dim this time, only half of them working. The shadows looked alive, stretching and twitching with each flicker. The mirrors were clear again, but the floor was wet. Like someone had just stepped out of the shower. I followed the trail of water back to the stalls. Every curtain was open except one, the last one on the left. Water was trickling from underneath it. Slow and steady, I whispered her name, Ellie. The sound of my own voice scared me. It echoed too loud in that hollow space. The shower stopped. I waited. Then, slowly, the curtain started to move, pulling back just an inch. Then another. I braced myself for something. But the stall was empty. Just a small puddle and a folded piece of paper sitting right in the center of the tiles. I bent down and picked it up. You came back. My throat tightened. I said it out loud without thinking. I'm sorry. Something shifted in the air like the whole room exhaled. The lights flickered faster, buzzing hard enough to hurt my ears, and then I heard her voice, clear this time, whispering directly in my ear. You left me there. I turned. She was standing a few feet away. Her skin was grayish, translucent under the flickering light. Her clothes, in the same gym uniform from that day, clung to her body, soaked through. Water dripped from her hair, hitting the floor in slow, heavy drops. I couldn't speak. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. She stepped closer. I backed up until my spine hit the row of lockers. Her head tilted just slightly. "Why didn't you wait?" My voice cracked. "I didn't know." "I thought you left," she blinked slowly. Water streamed down her cheeks like tears that never stopped. "I was there. I called you." I shook my head, shaking, my hands trembling in front of me. "Ellie, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, I didn't." She raised a finger to her lips. "Shh." The air went still. Every light shut off at once. I was plunged into darkness. Then, metal creaking, lockers slamming open and shut all around me. One by one, faster and faster until the sound was deafening. I covered my ears, yelling, but it didn't matter. The noise was everywhere. In the floor, the walls, my head. When the lights flickered back on, she was gone. The showers were all running now, every single one of them. Steam filled the room, fogging the mirrors again. Through the mist, I saw writing appear on the glass, line by line, like an invisible finger tracing words. "Stay with me this time." My heart dropped. I turned and bolted for the door. It didn't move. Locked again. I slammed my shoulder against it, screaming, but it wouldn't budge. Behind me, the water stopped, and then I felt it. A cold, wet hand on my shoulder. That hand was freezing. It felt like grabbing ice straight from a freezer. Slick, wet, and heavy. My whole body locked up. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I just stood there staring at the locked door, every nerve screaming to move. "Please," I whispered, my voice breaking. "Don't." The hand slid down my arm, leaving a trail of cold water. I could hear her breathing now. Slow, wet breaths like someone who'd been underwater too long. "Stay," she whispered. Her voice was soft, sad. "You never said goodbye." I turned. She was inches from me. Her face wasn't just pale. It was almost transparent now, veins visible under her skin. Her lips were blue, and her eyes looked wrong, empty, like there was nothing behind them but endless, silent water. And yet there was something fragile there, too, something almost human. "Ellie," I said, my voice barely audible. "I didn't mean to leave you, I swear. I didn't know." She shook her head, and her wet hair flung tiny drops of water onto my face. "You left me alone. Everyone did. I'm sorry." My throat was dry, but I kept talking. "I didn't know you were still there that day. If I did, I would have stayed. I would have..." Her eyes flickered like she was fighting something inside herself. "It was dark," she said. "It was cold." I called out, but no one came. I swallowed hard. "What happened to you?" Her expression went blank. Then her jaw twitched and her neck tilted slightly to one side, the way someone might when remembering something that hurts too much. "The lights went out," she said. "The door jammed. I slipped. I hit my head." Her voice cracked on the last word. A tear rolled down her cheek, except it wasn't a tear. It was a drop of water gliding slowly down until it fell onto my shirt. I felt sick. My stomach turned over as the reality of what she was saying sank in. She died there, alone, and no one found her until the next morning. "Ellie," I said softly, "I'm here now. You don't have to be alone anymore." For a moment, she looked almost relieved. The faintest hint of warmth passed through her expression. But then the air changed. The light above us flickered violently, buzzing and snapping. Her face twisted, not in anger, but in something desperate, terrified. "You can't leave again," she whispered. The lights burst, all of them, glass raining down in tiny, sharp shards. The locker room plunged into darkness. I stumbled backward, my shoes slipping on the wet floor. The door behind me rattled, then slammed shut. Ellie's voice echoed from everywhere at once, and from the walls, the floor, the vents.
"Stay with me." I could see her now, barely, glowing faintly in the dark.
Water dripped from her fingertips, each drop hitting the floor like a clock ticking down. She stepped closer. Each step made a slapping sound, and wet, heavy. "I waited for you," she said. Her voice broke. "Don't make me wait again." I reached for the handle, yanking it until my arm hurt. "Ellie, please. You don't belong here anymore." Her tone shifted, trembling with anger. "Neither do you." The ground beneath my feet rippled. I swear it did. The tiles warped and shimmered, and for a second I could see water beneath them, dark and deep, reflecting the flicker of the emergency light from the hallway. Then something grabbed my ankle. A hand. Cold and soaked. Another followed, and another. Hands reaching up through the tile like the floor was melting, clutching at my legs, dragging me down. I screamed, pulling, kicking, but they wouldn't let go. Ellie stood over me now, her face calm again. "Just say it," she whispered. "What?" "Goodbye." The hands loosened slightly. I looked up at her, her face glowing faintly in the dark, her eyes shimmering like glass. And in that second, I realized she didn't want to hurt me. She wanted to be released. I forced the words out through trembling lips. "I'm sorry I left you, Ellie. Goodbye." The moment I said it, everything stopped. The hands vanished. The floor went still. The air lightened like a deep breath had finally been exhaled. Ellie smiled, faint and sad. The glow around her dimmed. Her outline began to blur, water dripping faster, pooling around her feet. "Thank you," she whispered. And then she was gone. The lights flickered once, then steadied. The locker room was silent. The mirror was clear again. No writing, no handprints. Just me, drenched in sweat, shaking, staring at my reflection. I stumbled out into the hallway, lightheaded and weak. When I turned back, the locker room door was closed. For a long time, I just stood there, breathing. The school was dead quiet. When I finally got outside, the morning sun was rising, thin gray light stretching over the empty parking lot. It felt like waking up from a dream. Except my shoes were still soaked. It's been 2 weeks since that night. I moved out of my apartment, stayed with my cousin for a while. I told myself it was over, that whatever she wanted from me ended when I said goodbye. But last night, I woke up around 3 a.m. There was water dripping from my ceiling. I followed the sound into the bathroom, just a small puddle beneath the mirror. No running water, no leaks above, but when I looked at the mirror, I saw it again, a handprint smaller this time, and just beneath it, written faintly in the fog, "Thank you for waiting." The yearbooks came in on a Thursday. That was the first sign something wasn't right. I remember the smell of ink when they opened the boxes in the hallway. That plasticky chemical smell that stuck to your hands. Everyone was shouting, signing pages, swapping pens. It felt like the whole school had already checked out mentally. Finals were over. Graduation rehearsal was tomorrow. When I opened mine, I just froze. My picture wasn't there. Not on the senior page, not in the class group shot. Not even in the senior moments collage where everyone else had embarrassing candids. It was like I never existed. At first I laughed. "Guess I'm a ghost," I joked to my friend Clara. But she didn't laugh back. She just stared at the page, then flipped a few more. "Why aren't any of you guys in here?" she asked quietly. I didn't understand what she meant until I saw it. My entire friend group, me, Clara, Evan, Sarah, and Marcus, our pages were blank. Every photo that had us in it, we were missing, like someone had edited us out. Even the background looked subtly wrong, like a shadow erased. Someone had gone through the effort of removing us. We tried to laugh it off during lunch. "Probably a printing error," Evan said, scrolling on his phone like he didn't care. "You know how cheap this school is." But there was something about the silence around us, the way no one else sat near our table that day, that made my stomach twist. Usually, the cafeteria was so loud you couldn't think. That afternoon, it felt muffled, like the sound was being absorbed by the walls. When the bell rang, we all just wanted to get out of there. That's when Sarah got the text. Her phone buzzed once. She frowned and turned the screen toward us. It was from an unknown number. The message said, "You were never supposed to leave." We all stared at it. Marcus chuckled nervously. Probably someone messing around. Senior prank or whatever. But then my phone buzzed. Same message. Clara's did too. Evan's, Sarah's again, this time with an image attached. It was a photo of us. From the first day of freshman year. We were standing in front of the school sign, holding our schedules, smiling awkwardly. Except, in the photo, the building behind us wasn't our school. It looked burned. Black windows, collapsed roof. The letters on the sign were warped, half melted. And behind us, barely visible through the smoke, there were 5 silhouettes. Each of them had their heads slightly tilted toward the camera. We left early that day. The teachers didn't even stop us. They were too busy packing up. When I got home, I threw the yearbook in my bag and tried not to think about it. But when I opened my backpack later that night, it wasn't there. Instead, there was another book. Same size, same cover, but the title embossed in silver, The Last Yearbook. When I opened it, I expected blank pages, but there were photos inside, hundreds of them, except every single one was wrong. They looked like our school, but darker, older, ruined. And the people, their faces were blurred, all except for ours. My friends and I were in every single photo, standing in hallways, sitting in classrooms, even standing behind teachers who looked terrified, like they could see something over their shoulders. Every picture had a date written underneath in red ink. Each one said, June 3rd, tomorrow's date. I texted the group, me. Did you guys get something weird in your bags? Clara, yes, don't open it. Evan, too late. Sarah, mine has photos of us. From tomorrow? Marcus, guys, this isn't funny. I just saw one of us standing outside my house. We all froze at that message. Me. What? Marcus, I looked out the window. It's me, same hoodie, same jeans. He's standing across the street just watching. The typing bubbles appeared, then stopped. Then one more message came through. He's smiling now. That was the last message Marcus ever sent. The next morning, his desk was empty. The principal said his parents had called in, something about a family emergency. But when I went by his house later, there were 2 cop cars in the driveway. His mom was sitting on the porch crying into a blanket. Clara grabbed my wrist. Don't ask, she whispered. Don't say anything. We went back to school for graduation rehearsal, trying to act normal. Everyone else seemed fine, laughing, tossing their caps. But I couldn't stop looking at the bleachers. There was a man sitting at the very top, head down, hoodie up, hands folded like he was praying. When I blinked, he was gone. But when I turned back toward the field, I saw something tucked under my chair. A yearbook, not mine, not anyone's I recognized. This one had only 3 photos inside. The first was me. The second was Clara. The third was Evan. Under each picture, the same message was written in shaky black ink. Don't leave yet, you're not done. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus standing across the street, or whatever that thing was that looked like him. The image kept replaying in my head. Same hoodie, same jeans, same haircut. Like someone had copied him perfectly, except wrong, too still, too patient. I sat up around 3 a.m., heart racing because I thought I heard my phone buzz again. When I picked it up, there was no notification, but the screen lit up on its own. My lock screen background had changed. It was a picture of my bedroom, taken from outside my window. The blinds were half closed, just enough that I could see the faint reflection of a person standing there, holding a phone up to the glass, and they were wearing my clothes. I ran to the window so fast I tripped over my backpack. When I pulled the blinds back, no one was there. Just the quiet street, the orange glow of the lampposts, and the yearbook sitting on my desk, open again. It wasn't blank this time. There was a new page. June 3rd, 6:12 a.m. Underneath was a black and white photo of me, lying in bed, eyes open, staring straight at the ceiling. I didn't go to sleep after that. I just waited for the sun to rise. At 6:10, I got a text from Clara. Clara, you awake? Me, yeah. Clara, don't freak out. But Evan's gone too. Me, gone? Clara, his mom said he left early for rehearsal. But no one saw him there. I looked at the clock. 6:12 a.m., exactly the same time printed under that photo. I grabbed the yearbook and shoved it in my backpack. I couldn't stay in that room anymore. I drove straight to Clara's house, heart pounding so hard my hands kept slipping on the steering wheel. When she opened the door, her eyes were red, her hair messy like she hadn't slept either. She didn't even say hi. She just held up her phone. It was a picture message. Another photo of us, standing outside her house, but this time, it wasn't today. The timestamp at the top said June 3rd, 2022, exactly 1 year ago. And in the background, the same burned-down school we'd seen before. We decided to go back to the school. It felt insane, but we needed answers. We thought maybe the printing company messed up the yearbooks. Maybe someone was using AI to prank us. Maybe there was some explanation that made sense. When we pulled into the parking lot, the whole building looked wrong. Not destroyed, not burned, just different. Like the air around it was thicker. The hallways were darker than usual even though it was morning. The doors were unlocked, even though school wasn't supposed to open until 8. The moment we stepped inside, the lights flickered. Clara grabbed my arm. "Do you hear that?" At first I didn't. Then I realized what it was, and pages flipping. Dozens of them. From somewhere down the hall, we followed the sound to the library, and there, on every single table, sat open yearbooks, hundreds of them. Each one flipped its own pages, slow and steady, like invisible hands were turning them, and every single page had us in it. Different angles. Different room, but always the same day printed underneath. June 3rd. Clara started crying. "I don't want to be here. I don't want this." We turned to leave, but the doors behind us were already closed. Then the intercom crackled. A woman's voice. Flat, monotone, like an old recording. "Seniors, please take your seats." "Graduation will begin shortly," Clara screamed. We ran to the side exit, but it wouldn't budge. The sound of the pages flipping got louder, faster. That's when we saw the stage lights flicker on across the gym, visible through the library's glass wall. Rows of empty folding chairs were lined up neatly facing the stage, except they weren't all empty. In the front row sat Marcus, his head tilted slightly to one side, hands folded neatly in his lap. His eyes were open, glassy and blank, staring right at us. Beside him sat Evan. Same posture, same stillness. Their yearbooks were open on their laps. Clara ran first. I didn't even think. We bolted through the hallway, our shoes echoing like gunshots. The smell of ink and old paper filled the air. Heavy, chemical, wrong. When we reached the double doors to the gym, I hesitated. My stomach told me not to open them, but Clara did it anyway. The gym looked like it had been set up for graduation. Banners, a podium, chairs, everything. But the air was freezing. And in the back, against the bleachers, were tables covered in piles of yearbooks. A figure stood at the podium. It was wearing a teacher's gown, black and formal, the kind they wear during graduation. Its face was obscured by the hanging hood. It raised its head slowly. And that's when I saw it. It had no face, just a flat, pale surface, but it spoke in the exact voice of our principal. "Seniors," it said softly. "You may take your final photos." The gym doors slammed shut behind us. Every phone in the room buzzed at once. I looked down at mine. A new image appeared in my gallery. It was me and Clara standing right there in the gym, but the picture wasn't live. It was printed, old-looking, tinted sepia, and behind us, sitting in the audience, were hundreds of motionless students. All of them smiling. All of them missing from this year's book. Clara grabbed my arm so tight her nails dug into my skin. "We have to get out now." We ran toward the stage, dodging chairs and tables, the sound of flipping pages following us like wind. But when we reached the side door, I saw something on the wall, a framed photo of the class of 2023. I stopped dead. There we were. Me, Clara, Marcus, Evan, Sarah, all standing in front of the school sign. Except this time, none of us were smiling, and the background wasn't burned or destroyed. It was just dark, completely black. We made it out through the side stairwell. I don't even remember how. I just remember the cold air hitting my lungs like ice and the sound of Clara sobbing beside me. We didn't talk on the drive home. I dropped her off, told her to lock her doors, and sped straight back to my house. When I opened my bag, the yearbook was gone again, but there was something else in its place, in a printed photo. It was me and Clara, standing on the school field, shaking hands with the faceless principal. In the background, Marcus and Evan stood behind us clapping, and written across the bottom in smeared black ink, "See you at graduation." I didn't go to sleep that night either. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw flashes of that gym, the yearbooks flipping, Marcus's blank face, the faceless figure at the podium. By morning, I told myself I wasn't going to graduation. But when I looked outside, I saw cars lined up all down my street. People in gowns, parents taking pictures, balloons. It was like nothing weird had happened at all. The world moved on, like it didn't notice what we'd seen. And then I saw Clara's car pull up. She stepped out slowly, looking pale, her cap in one hand, her phone in the other. She walked right up to my door, didn't even knock, just stared at me through the window. Her eyes were red, her lips trembling. When I opened the door, she whispered, "They said if we don't go, it'll come to us." I didn't even ask who they were. I just got in the car. The school looked normal from the outside, but as soon as we walked in, I knew something was wrong again. The air smelled like mildew and burnt paper. The floors were scuffed with black marks, like someone had dragged furniture across them overnight. The banners said, "Congratulations, class of 2024. But we were the class of 2023. I pointed it out, but Clara didn't respond. She just stared down the hall toward the auditorium. Someone was standing there. A girl wearing the same gown as us, facing away, long black hair covering her shoulders. I thought maybe it was Sarah. We hadn't seen her since the yearbooks came in. "Hey!" I called. The girl turned around. It wasn't Sarah. It wasn't anyone. Where her face should have been, there was just smooth skin, pale and featureless, like wax. She raised her hand slowly and pointed behind me. When I turned around, every door in the hallway slammed shut at once. We ran. The echo of our shoes bounced down the empty corridor. My cap fell off somewhere, but I didn't care. When we reached the gym doors, I stopped short. Through the little glass windows, I could see the audience already seated. Hundreds of people, all perfectly still, except they weren't people. They were photos. Each seat had a picture propped up on it. Smiling faces from our class, printed in glossy color, staring at the stage. At the podium stood the faceless principal again, holding a clipboard. The intercom crackled. "Seniors, please take your seats. It's time for your final photograph." Clara shook her head. "I'm not doing this." The gym doors creaked open on their own. The smell of ink hit me again, so strong it made my eyes water. Inside, the sound of camera shutters echoed. Click. Click, click, even though no one was holding a camera. We walked past the rows of photographs. Every picture smiled wider as we passed. The air was heavy, humming with electricity. I saw movement on stage, Marcus and Evan still sitting in the front row. But now their faces were different. The blankness was gone. They were smiling again, stiff and frozen as if they'd been posed. The faceless principal turned toward us. He held up a yearbook. "Your names were missing," he said softly, in that flat, echoing voice. "We fixed that." He opened the book and turned it toward us. There we were. Me, Clara, Marcus, Evan, Sarah, all sitting on the stage, smiling for a class photo. Except, the photo wasn't taken yet. It was happening now. Behind us, I heard footsteps. I turned and froze. 5 figures were walking down the aisle. Each of them looked exactly like us. Same faces, same gowns, same movements. They didn't blink. They didn't breathe. They stopped right in front of us. My double smiled at me, a perfect mirror. Then he reached out and handed me a camera. "Take it," he whispered in my voice. I didn't want to, but my hands moved anyway. The camera was old, a heavy Polaroid with a cracked lens. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. "Every class needs a photographer," my double said. "It's your turn now." He stepped backward, blending into the shadows near the stage. The principal raised his hands. Everyone smiled. The lights flickered bright white. And my body, my real body, froze in place. I could feel my jaw stretching into a grin I didn't control. My arms stiffened. My eyes stayed open even when I tried to blink. The flash went off. The photo printed instantly, sliding out of the camera. Still warm. Clara was crying silently beside me, but she couldn't move either. When the photo finished developing, I saw it. Us, sitting there, smiling perfectly under the stage lights. The crowd of photographs behind us were all clapping. And in the corner of the image, written in red ink, "Class of 2024, complete." The next thing I remember was waking up in my car parked outside the school. It was dark out. My phone said 11:47 p.m. My graduation gown was covered in black streaks, ink. My hands were shaking and the Polaroid camera sat in my lap. There was a photo sticking out of the slot. I pulled it out with trembling fingers. It was me, standing on stage, smiling with Clara and the others. But there was someone else behind us, the faceless principal. And this time his head was tilted slightly, like he was looking right at me. I looked up toward the school. The gym lights were still on. Through the glass, I saw rows of figures sitting in chairs, unmoving, staring forward. I don't remember driving home. I don't even remember unlocking my door. All I know is when I got inside, the yearbook was sitting on my bed again. A sticky note was attached to it. Final proof enclosed. Thank you for your contribution. I opened it. The first page was my senior portrait, except I didn't remember taking it. My eyes were open too wide. My smile too sharp. Behind me, the burned school smoldered, the same one from the earlier photos. And just behind my shoulder was me, another version of me, smiling wider. I threw the book across the room. It hit the wall and fell open. The last page fluttered out on its own. A group photo. All 5 of us, standing in front of the school sign again. But this time, everything was restored. The building looked brand new. The sky was bright blue, and written across the bottom in neat cursive letters, "Congratulations, class of 2024. Welcome back." The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone ringing. Unknown number. For a second, I thought about ignoring it, and then I saw the caller ID, Ridgeview High Office. My stomach twisted. I answered. "Hello?" The voice on the other end was calm, polite. A woman. "Hi, this is Mrs. Langford from the front office. Just calling to confirm your attendance for next year." My brain stuttered. "Next year?" "Yes," she said. "You've been automatically enrolled for senior year." "I graduated," I said quietly. A pause. Then she chuckled softly, but it didn't sound human. Too slow, too drawn out. "Not yet." The line clicked dead. I didn't move for a long time. The house felt wrong again, too quiet, like someone had turned the world's volume down. Then I heard something from the hallway. A faint thump. When I opened my bedroom door, there was a box sitting on the floor. No label. Inside was another yearbook, this one plain black. No title. When I opened it, I felt cold air spill out, like it had been sitting in a freezer. The first page said, Ridgeview High, class of 2025. And there I was. Same picture, same smile. Different date. I didn't know what else to do. I grabbed my car keys and drove back to the school. It was Sunday. The parking lot was empty, the building locked. But the lights inside were on, flickering faintly behind the tinted glass. I parked and walked to the front doors. Someone had written on them in black marker, "You're late for homeroom." When I pressed my hand to the glass, it was warm. Then, without touching it, the door unlocked with a soft click. The hallways were lined with yearbooks now, piled up against lockers, stacked on benches covering the floors. Hundreds of them, all identical. Every cover blank, black, shiny. As I walked, I noticed the lockers were slightly open. Inside each one was a photo of a student, taped neatly inside the door, all of them smiling. All of them from our class, and in every photo there was someone standing behind them, a shadow. No face, just a faint outline. I recognized one of the photos. Marcus, then Evan, then Sarah. I called out for Clara. My voice echoed down the hall. No answer. Then I heard footsteps. She came around the corner slowly, still in her gown, hair messy, eyes wide and wet. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Clara?" I said, running to her. She smiled weakly. "You came back." I had to. Then I stopped. Something was wrong with her smile. It was too wide. Too steady. Her eyes didn't blink. When she spoke again, her voice was layered. Hers, but also someone else's behind it. "We just wanted to remember this day forever." My chest went tight. "Clara, what are you talking about?" She tilted her head. "You took the picture, didn't you?" She stepped closer, and for a split second her face shifted, like two photos sliding out of alignment. One was her. The other was me. The lights above us started flickering faster, buzzing like angry bees. The walls were vibrating now, humming with that same deep tone I'd heard in the gym before. Yearbooks began sliding off the shelves by themselves, landing open on the floor. Every page had motion, like looping video clips printed on paper. I saw myself walking through hallways, standing in classrooms, sitting next to people who weren't there anymore. The pages turned faster, showing glimpses of the same moment over and over again. June 3rd. Always June 3rd. Clara, or whatever she was, reached toward me. "It's okay." she whispered. It's just a retake, I ran. Through the hallway, past the lockers, past the open books spilling across the floor. The smell of ink and ozone filled my lungs, burning my throat. When I reached the main office, I saw the door slightly open. Inside, the walls were covered in Polaroids. Hundreds of them, students, teachers, janitors, everyone. And pinned in the center was a fresh one. Me standing in the hallway, taken just seconds ago. I turned slowly toward the doorway, and there I was, my double. He was smiling, holding the Polaroid camera. Almost done, he said in my voice. We just need your signature. He handed me a pen. The yearbook was open on the counter, my photo already printed inside. Below it, a line that said, "Sign here to confirm attendance." I backed away. No, I'm not part of this. I'm not, he smiled wider. You already are. Behind him, the lights flickered again, and every Polaroid started moving. Students turning their heads, opening their mouths in silent screams. The walls began to breathe. Ink bled from the photos, running down like black tears. He stepped closer. It's okay, he said softly. You'll never have to leave again. I don't remember what happened next. I think I blacked out. When I woke up, I was sitting in a chair and in the auditorium. The lights were warm and bright. Laughter echoed all around me. Parents clapping. Cameras flashing. Graduation. But something was wrong. The faces around me were all smiling but not blinking. Their caps and gowns were spotless. The air smelled like old paper and formaldehyde. The faceless principal stood on stage again. And now, he said, for our returning seniors, he looked straight at me. Welcome back. Everyone started clapping. I tried to stand, but my legs didn't move. I looked down. My hands were covered in black ink soaking into my skin like veins. The yearbook lay open on my lap. My own face smiled up at me from the page. Underneath, my name was printed twice, 2023, crossed out. 2025, freshly written. I don't know how long I've been here. The lights never turn off. The same song keeps playing on the speakers. That soft piano tune they used for the graduation slideshow. Every few minutes, another student walks in. Confused, shaking, looking for help. Then they see the yearbook, and their name gets added too. The books multiply. The pages turn, and every time a camera flashes, I feel it. Something being taken. A piece of who I was. If anyone finds this, don't go back to Ridgeview High. Don't open the yearbook. Don't answer the calls. If they tell you there's another photo day and don't go, they don't want your picture. They want your place because here, no one ever really graduates. Perfect. We're now moving on to the final story of your video. It was supposed to be over. Our last day. Exams done, lockers cleaned, futures planned. But that morning, Principal Doyle's voice came over the intercom. Calm, steady, and way too early. All students, please report to homeroom for final roll call before dismissal. I remember laughing. Nobody cared about roll call on the last day. Half the class had already left for senior trips or family vacations. But he said it again. Slower this time. All students, every name must be checked. No exceptions. Something about the way he said it made me stop. There was a tone like this wasn't optional. I was sitting in my car ready to leave for the last time. My backpack was empty except for a hoodie and my phone charger. I should have driven away, but something pulled me back. I walked in through the east doors. The halls were silent except for the hum of the lights. The posters about prom were still up, edges curling. The congratulations class of 2024. Banner sagged in the middle. When I reached my homeroom, the door was open. Everyone who had shown up was sitting perfectly still. No one talking. No one on their phone. Just waiting. Mr. Hills, our teacher, stood at his desk holding a clipboard. His smile looked painted on. Hey, Mr. Hill, I said, sliding into my seat. What's going on? Thought we were done. He nodded, eyes fixed on the list in front of him. Almost done, he said softly. Just need to make sure everyone's accounted for. He started calling names. Adams. Here. Bishop. Here. Coleman. His voice was flat like a robot reading a grocery list. When he called my name, I said, here. He didn't look up. Just checked the box, but when he reached the end, he frowned. Missing one. He looked at me. Do you know where Emily is? I froze. Emily had died 6 months ago. Car accident on her way to school. We'd had a memorial for her right in this room. Her desk was still empty. Flowers long gone, but the tape outline of her memorial photo still visible on the wall. I said quietly, She's not coming." Mr. Hill didn't blink. Everyone must be accounted for. He picked up the intercom phone and pressed a button. One missing. Room 104. The line crackled. Then Principal Doyle's voice came through. "Copy that. Proceed to locate." The lights dimmed slightly. No one moved. We all just stared at the empty chair. And then, someone knocked on the door. 3 slow knocks. Mr. Hill's head turned toward it, like he'd been expecting it. He opened the door, and she walked in. Emily pale, soaked from the rain outside, but except it wasn't raining. Her hair clung to her face. Her shoes left wet marks that sizzled faintly against the tile. No one said anything. We just watched her walk to her seat and sit down. Her movements were wrong, jerky, delayed like she was mimicking herself. She looked at me, smiled faintly and whispered, "You didn't wait for me." Mr. Hill checked her name off the list. "All present," he said softly. Then, under his breath, "Good." He placed the clipboard on the desk and stepped away. But instead of dismissing us, he went to the door and locked it. The sound echoed through the room. We all looked at each other, confused, half laughing nervously. Mr. Hill, what's happening?" I asked. He didn't answer. He was staring at the clock. The second hand wasn't moving. Then he whispered, almost to himself, "We end where we began." The PA system clicked on again. Principal Doyle's voice returned. "All rooms confirmed. Begin final attendance." The intercom clicked off and the lights went out. The room plunged into darkness except for the faint glow of the emergency exit sign. I heard the shuffle of feet. Someone breathing fast, then one by one. Voices began calling their own names. Adams, here. Bishop, here. Coleman, here. Like something inside us knew we had to say it. But when it reached Emily's turn, silence. Then the sound of her desk creaking, and her voice, right behind me, whispering, "Still here." The door rattled violently. Something was on the other side, slamming, scratching. The sound of dozens of hands pounding in rhythm. Mr. Hill stood frozen in front of the door, shaking. When it burst open, the hallway was filled with students, bound but not normal ones. They were us. Copies. Pale. Blurred versions of everyone in class. Same faces, different eyes, pitch black, empty. They started walking in single file into the room. Each one went straight to a desk, sometimes to a seat that was already taken. When they sat down, the person who had been sitting there simply disappeared, no scream. Just gone. I backed into the corner as one of them approached me, my own face smiling faintly. He raised his hand, palm open, and said my name in my own voice. "Present." My chest tightened. "You're not me." "I am now." When he touched my shoulder, my vision went white. For a split second, I felt like I was falling through a mirror, cold, endless. Then, silence. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing outside the classroom. The door was closed. Through the glass, I could see everyone sitting, perfectly still, even me. Mr. Hill was calling names. Again, that's when I saw the intercom speaker above the door and the red light still glowing. Heard Principal Doyle's voice one last time. Attendance confirmed. All accounted for. The hallway lights flickered, then went dark. Only the emergency exit sign remained, casting a dull red glow across the empty hall. And somewhere deep in the building, I heard the sound of a bell ringing, graduation. But no one left the classroom. No one ever would. When I came to, the hallway was empty again. Not just quiet, empty like the air itself had gone still. The clock above the lockers blinked 8:01 a.m., the same time the announcement had played that morning. I checked my phone. No signal, no time, just a frozen screen that said Thursday, June 6th, our last day of school. Still. I walked down the hall, past rows of lockers with open doors, half filled with books that hadn't been touched in months. I swear some of the pages moved, like something was breathing beneath them. Every sound echoed. My footsteps, my heartbeat, the faint hum of lights above me. It felt like the whole building was waiting. I turned the corner toward the main office. The glass windows were blacked out from the inside, but I heard whispering. Dozens of voices, faint like an intercom was half on somewhere. I pressed my ear to the window. It was the roll call again. The same list of names, the same voices answering here, but slower this time. Distorted. I didn't want to go in, but the handle turned by itself. The office smelled like burnt dust and paper. The computers were on, all of them, glowing with blue screens. One by one, they flickered and flashed the same file name. Attendance log, 2004-XX, 2 decades old. My stomach dropped when I scrolled through it. Every year, every student, including us. But next to each name was a final column. Status. Most said graduated. Some said transferred, but a few said present. I found my name, status present. It was written in bold red text, like it had been updated recently. I heard the PA click on again, a faint hiss, like someone breathing through a speaker. Then the principal's voice, low and distorted. Students remaining after roll call will report to the announcements room. The line cut. I should have run. I should have broken a window and climbed out, but every door I tried was locked, chained from the inside. The school wasn't letting me leave, so I went deeper. The announcements room was at the end of the east hallway, past the trophies and old yearbooks. I'd been there once in freshman year. It always felt wrong, like time didn't move the same inside. The door was half open. Inside, the light was dim, just one old desk lamp glowing over a mess of cassette tapes and recorders. And on the desk, a microphone, still connected. The same one Principal Doyle used for the morning announcements. The air was heavy with that old electric smell, the kind you get from broken wires. On the walls were rows of framed graduation photos. Every class since the 1960s, I found ours near the bottom. But when I looked closer, every face was scratched out, every single one except mine. Then I heard a faint shuffle behind me. Footsteps. Slow. Bare. I turned around and saw Mr. Hill. He looked wrong. His face was pale like paper, his eyes empty but locked on me. His voice cracked as he said, "You missed final attendance." "I was there," I whispered. He shook his head. "Not all of you were marked." He reached for the microphone and pressed the red button. The speaker above us buzzed to life, one student remaining. Report name. The sound came from every speaker in the school. The gym, the cafeteria, the halls. I backed away. "I'm not doing this." He took a step closer. "If you don't report in, you'll stay. That's the rule." His hand gripped the mic stand so tight I heard the metal bend. The air in the room started to vibrate, the hum rising into a sharp tone. And then, through the static, I heard Emily's voice. "Say your name, or I'll say it for you." The light flickered violently. The microphone began to shake on its base. The sound grew louder, like 100 whispers piling over each other, all saying, "Here, here, here." I slammed my hands over my ears, shouting, "Stop it!" And then everything went dead. Silence. When I opened my eyes, I was standing outside again, at my locker. The banner still hung overhead. "Congratulations, class of 2024. Someone had written something over it in black marker, "All present." The bell rang and I heard the intercom click back on. "Students, please report to homeroom for final roll call before dismissal." Same voice, same tone, same words. The day had started over. I dropped to my knees, staring down the hall as the doors opened one by one. Students walking out, smiling, laughing, acting like nothing had happened, like none of them remembered. But I did, because I saw Emily standing by the drinking fountain, dripping water onto the tile. She looked at me and smiled that broken smile. "You didn't wait for me." Then she turned and walked toward homeroom. Again, the speakers crackled one last time. All students must be accounted for. I ran to the exit, pushed through, but the glass didn't give. The sunlight outside looked fake, painted. The reflection in the glass showed my face, except my mouth was still moving. And I was whispering, "Present." I don't remember how many times I ran that hallway. Every time I thought I'd escaped, I ended up back at homeroom. The doors unlocked just long enough to make me think I was free, then slammed shut behind me. The lights flickered overhead. Shadows stretched across the floor, twisting into shapes that weren't mine. I tried yelling, pounding on lockers, screaming for someone, anyone, but no sound came out. Or maybe it did, and the school swallowed it. I ran to the announcements room again. The same dim lamp glowed over the desk. The microphone waited for me like it knew I'd come. The framed graduation photos lined the walls, hundreds of them, every class ever. I noticed the scratches had changed. Faces I didn't recognize were missing now, and at the bottom, staring up at me, was my own photograph. The eyes weren't mine. They were black holes, empty, endless. Mr. Hill appeared behind me again. He didn't walk. He seemed to glide, silent and slow. His voice dry and echoing. Attendance must be completed. Everyone accounted for. I shook my head. I'm not your student. I already graduated. He smiled. Graduation is irrelevant. Presence is mandatory. I could feel the room shifting, walls bending slightly inward, closing in. I realized the school itself was alive, or at least it felt that way. Every step echoed like it was listening. Then came the whispering again. Hundreds of voices overlapping, calling names. Here, present, here, present. They grew louder, faster, circling me. I tried the windows, locked. I tried the doors, locked. I even tried the roof exit. No way out. The microphone on the desk buzzed violently. It lifted slowly into the air, then hovered in front of me. I could see the shadow of a figure in its reflection. Not Mr. Hill, not me. Something behind me moving with the room. I grabbed the microphone, ready to throw it. The moment I touched it, a shock ran up my arm and I was thrown backward. I landed in the middle of the gym. Everything looked normal at first. The chairs were lined up. The stage was set. The banners. The same as always. But the sound of camera shutters began. Soft at first, then rapid like a storm. I realized all the seats were filled, with copies of students. Every single one of them identical to someone I knew, but their eyes black and empty. They all turned their heads toward me. A version of myself stood at the center aisle. Holding a Polaroid camera, smiling, I tried to run. My legs wouldn't move. I screamed. The copies advanced slowly, filling the gym with their silent presence. The flashes started. Every click of the camera felt like it was piercing through my body. The floor beneath me vibrated. The light stuttered. I felt my hands rising on their own, holding a camera I didn't remember picking up. Everyone accounted for, my double whispered in my voice. I tried to resist. I tried to fight, but my body obeyed. The Polaroid slid out of the camera. I dropped it to the floor. The image developed instantly. It was me, smiling, sitting in the gym behind me. The faceless principal. I looked around. Every door in the gym, the hallways, the stairwells, all glowing red. All locked. I realized the truth. This day, this last day of school, was never ending. Every student, every year, every final roll call entrapped. The school itself took what it wanted. It didn't matter if we graduated. Presence was required. Attendance was eternal. I ran toward the exit anyway, even though I knew it was useless. Every step echoed against an invisible wall. The flashes of the cameras, the whispers of voices, the endless call of my name. It followed me like a storm. I stopped, gasping. The emergency lights flickered. And through the open doorway at the far end of the gym, I saw it. Another version of me, smiling wider than I ever could. Holding a Polaroid. Present, it said. I knew then. I would never leave. The gym was silent now, but not peaceful. The air hummed like static, a low vibrating sound that rattled my bones. Every Polaroid, every photo, every copied student in the seat seemed to be watching me, waiting. The faceless principal stepped forward. The folds of his robe whispered against the floor. He raised his arm slowly and the lights dimmed, focusing a harsh glow only on me. Attendance must be confirmed, he said. I shook my head. I'm done. I'm leaving. He tilted his head. A shadow stretched across the floor longer than possible, creeping toward me. You never leave. Then I heard it. Hundreds of voices chanting, present. Present, present. I tried to run. Every step I took, the floor beneath me shifted, stretching the hallway into impossible lengths. The doors I had tried before were gone. In their place were walls lined with Polaroids, each one showing me at different times in different classrooms, always smiling, always present. I reached for one. My reflection stared back, smiling too wide, eyes black. When I tried to look away, it blinked. Behind me, the copies rose from their seats. Marcus, Emily, Sarah, Evan, every friend I had known, every version of myself I had ever seen. They advanced silently, step by step. "You belong with us," they whispered in unison. I screamed, but no sound came out. My arms lifted on their own, gripping a Polaroid camera that had appeared in my hands. The shutter clicked. A new photo slid out. I caught it and froze. It was me, sitting at a desk in homeroom, smile frozen, eyes wide. The faceless principal reached out and touched my shoulder. His hand was cold, empty, like holding fog. "Final roll call complete," he said. "You are now part of the attendance forever." The lights went out. When I opened my eyes, I was sitting at a desk again. Homeroom. The bell rang. The intercom buzzed. "All students, please report for final roll call before dismissal." The desk next to me was empty. Behind me, I heard a shuffle. I turned slowly. Someone was sitting there. It was me, smiling, eyes wide, hands folded neatly on the desk, and in my hand, a Polaroid of me smiling back at myself. I reached for the door. Locked. I screamed, but only a whisper came out. "Present." I heard from every direction, and I understood. No one ever leaves. You can't graduate. You can't escape. The final roll call goes on forever.